Hello and welcome back once again to Viper Bites. If you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for joining us. And if you're not, and you're here for the Prospect Profile Series, hey, you're in the right place. And today we are going to talk about North Dakota State's Christian Watson. Yes, if you're looking for more athletic freak type wide receivers, hey, we got you. Don't worry about that. But before we get into it, make sure you get us here. Make sure you're rating and reviewing us on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, whatever podcasting platform is your preference. And as always, take a second, hit that like button. Make sure you're subscribed and turn on those notifications here on the Vipers Network on the YouTube channel. Now, let's get into this. Let's talk freaks and geeks here. Let's combine analytics and film, and let's talk about North Dakota State's Christian Watson, a self-proclaimed late bloomer. Hey, he grew 4 inches in his senior year in high school. I haven't grown 4 inches in the last 30 years. Watson was involved in both football and track, and on the football field, hey, he played wide receiver and safety, averaging 17.1 yards per catch with 8 receiving touchdowns and 587 all-purpose yards in his senior season. Probably one of the reasons why he probably ended up at North Dakota State and not somewhere else. Now, at 6'4", 208 pounds, he also has those 32.5-inch arms and a RAS score, of 9.96. 40-yard dash, 4.36, vertical 38.5, broad jump 136. I can tell you already right now, if I go to player profiler, those are going to be some absolutely insane speed and burst scores. Heck, I went over to player profiler, 119.9 for a speed score. Burst score, I mean, look at this. Burst score, 133.5. That is in the 95th percentile. College dominator, 44%, 90th percentile. Breakout age, 20.3 in the 53rd percentile. College yards per reception, 89th percentile at 18.6 yards per reception. When talking about Christian Watson, we got to go all the way back to 2018. And as a red shirt freshman, he only produced 165 yards on 9 receptions. But in 2019, he turned 34 receptions into 732 yards and 6 touchdowns. He also ran the ball 13 times for 162 yards. Watson was a second-team All-Missouri Valley Football Conference selection in 2019, ranking 3rd in the MVFC in receiving yards and 2nd in yards per reception at 21.53. Now, in 2020, the FSC was a little weird. I mean, one game in the fall before postponing the season until the spring of 2021, he still produced 18 receptions for 437 yards, 116 yards rushing, and on special teams, he contributed another 338 yards in only 8 contests. He was still named a first-team All-Missouri Valley Football Conference selection at receiver and a second-team return specialist. In 2021, Watson was named second-team AP All-American as the FSC returned to some form of normality, and Watson's numbers were pretty solid: 43 receptions, 801 yards, 6 touchdowns. He was also named first-team All-Conference and the only player in the FCS to score 2 kickoff return touchdowns during the season. If you look at each of the seasons, yards per reception average, it goes as follows. 2018, 18.3 yards per reception. 2019, 21.5. 2020, 24.3. And finally, in 2021, 18.6. Now, Watson was one of, if not the best receiver down in Mobile, Alabama during the Senior Bowl. His 4.33 yards per route run is the highest in this class. Some other notable top prospects such as Treylon Burks, 3.57. Drake London, 3.56. Jameson Williams, 3.12. Garrett Wilson, 3 even, were the only other receivers to average at least 3 yards per route run. He also finished 4th in North Dakota State history, averaging 20.38 yards per reception and 26.38 yards per kickoff return. He was 8th in school history at 2,140 yards receiving, as well as 10th in receptions with 105. Watson also ranks 9th in Bison's history. There was 687 kickoff return yards and tied the school record with those 2 kickoff return touchdowns in the same season. Now, what Watson brings to the table as far as strengths go, they're pretty obvious. You look at the RAS score, you can look at the metrics, size, speed. He's got good length. These are things you can't teach. These are intangibles that I absolutely love. Now, versatility, he can contribute as a receiver, as a runner, or as a return man, and he works hard, and he has that willingness to block down the field. Now, as far as weaknesses are concerned, the first thing that comes to my mind is that 12.7% drop rate. That is something that's not ideal that he's going to have to work on. It's more of a focus thing. Now, his routes, they're improving, but they still need to go against some top-end competition. And typically when I talk about top-end competition, North Dakota State, they're not facing about down in Mobile, Alabama during the Senior Bowl. Christian Watson, he did pretty good against that. Here's the final breakdown for Christian Watson. 180 touches in his career at North Dakota State. 57 of them, yes, 57 of them went for 20 or more yards. I can't help this feeling that if Trey Lance would have stayed one more season, what could have been for Christian Watson? I definitely don't think that he'd be an under-the-radar type conversation player right now, and we'd all know his name a lot sooner than the 2021 Senior Bowl. Now, North Dakota lined him up everywhere, very Debo-esque, if I will. I'm not saying he's Debo Samuel, so do not quote me on that, but they lined him up in the slot. They lined him outside. They lined him up in the backfield and had him running routes. Now, I'm hoping he adds a little bit of weight to his frame, and I hope he learns how to leverage that weight and strength going forward. Now, because of his versatility and obviously those athletic freak kind of traits, he's going to find himself on a roster, but it's going to take everything the next couple seasons for him to carve out a role that could potentially lead to a wide receiver type impact going forward. Now, if you want impacts, if you want to move forward, head to fantasypoints.com, enter promo code Vipers22, and get yourself 10% off that subscription today. And while you are there, check out the 2022 NFL Prospect Guide, one of the best magazines out there. For $25, you get 200 plus rookie profiles courtesy of NFL Films, Greg Cassell. You get Wes Huber, you get Joe Dolan, you get Graham Barfield, you get Scott Baird, and of course you get John Hansen. And on top of that, strengths, weaknesses, NFL transition talk, mock drafts, combine results, rankings, rookie rankings, Devy rankings, any kind of ranking except maybe mustache rankings. It is there in that magazine. So, hey, before we leave, make sure you've got those notifications turned on, because when trades happen, when signings go down, we got you covered to break it all down right here on the Vipers Network, and we will see you next time.